Last time we were here, I talked about The Beekeeper, Night Swim, and a bunch of movies I watched in 2023 with the annual recap episode. If you watched or listened to any of those episodes, then you'll know I was really looking forward to this movie. Right at the top, I want to say that I've never seen the Broadway musical. So when I talked about this movie in the past, I was really interested to see how such an iconic story would be turned into a musical. And you guys, I was actually really impressed. Hello, it's me again, your movie friend. Welcome back. New friends and besties, I'm here as a friend to give you my spoiler-free thoughts on the latest movie I watched in theaters or at home. If you're looking for my thoughts on a specific movie, DM me on Instagram, let me know on the podcast, or in the comments section on YouTube. Tune in for new episodes every Friday. Don't forget to follow the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and follow on Instagram so you don't miss out on what I'm watching and what we're going to be talking about. Based on the Broadway musical of the same name, that is based on the iconic 2004 modern classic film, which is based on the 2002 book Queen Bees and Wannabes, let's get into today's episode on Mean Girls. New student Katie Heron is welcomed into the top of the social food chain by the elite group of popular girls called the Plastics, ruled by the conniving Queen Bee Regina George and her minions Gretchen and Karen. However, when Katie makes the major misstep of falling for Regina's ex-boyfriend Aaron Samuels, she finds herself prey in Regina's crosshairs. As Katie sets out to take down the group's apex predator with the help of her outcast friends Janice and Damien, she must learn how to stay true to herself while navigating the most cutthroat jungle of all, high school. Before we get into this episode, I do want to say that I'm keeping the 2024 film and the 2004 film separate, but I will talk about both and compare them a little bit later in the episode because I definitely rewatched Mean Girls after I watched the new movie. I'm writing this out after having just read a bunch of negative reviews, and in my opinion, this movie doesn't deserve the hate. I don't know what all the hate is for. Okay, well, I do because I read it, and we'll talk about it later in the episode, but for now, I will say that this movie is refreshing, and I haven't watched a solid live-action musical in theaters in a while, and honestly, I wish there were more. This movie is fun and over the top in so many ways, from the use of social media and phone screens, the dialogue, the characters' relationships, the music, the dance numbers, the lighting, the costumes, and of course, the story. Iconic. I really like the use of the phone POV and social media. I think it's fun, different, and it helps to further modernize the story. I haven't seen this technique used since probably last year's Missing, which is a fantastic movie, by the way. So it's been long enough that it really felt new and really pulls you into the world. The dialogue. I didn't have as big of a problem with it as I've read other people had in their negative reviews. Like I said, I didn't mind it at all from the moments that, as a fan of the 2004 film, I knew were coming to the ones that were changed or taken out entirely. Now, the character relationships and the music, I'm going to talk about them together. Well, we'll segue. Stay with me here. I was really surprised at how much more depth was given to the characters individually and through the musical numbers. I feel like this really added to their relationships and to their development. The music. The musical. It's a musical. There is a lot of singing, start to finish, and I'm not exaggerating. The movie opens up with singing and it doesn't slow down. The musical numbers and the singing are so energetic, where it counts, from who it counts from, and we'll get into that later. So much so that the entire movie is really high energy. The dance numbers and lighting, I really love the scene at the Halloween party. The lighting and the dancing in this scene specifically took me out. It was awesome, and I love how the sequence played out in real time in the movie. The lighting in this scene, incredible. The dancing, the movement, amazing. Now, I want to talk about the acting and the singing, and we're starting this off with one of two people that, for me, stole the entire movie. Of course, the apex predator herself, Regina George, played by Renee Rapp. You guys know I love my scholarly Googling, and I found out that Renee actually played Regina in the Broadway musical from 2019 to 2020. I think it's incredible that she was able to reprise the role because the way I was sitting in the theater, like, where did this girl come from? I love. Renee truly embodies Regina George immediately from the first time we see her on screen. Her vocals, incredible. I honestly felt like it was a music video every time she started singing. She has a really strong singing voice, and I love the acting through her singing. She absolutely performs. Not only is her singing incredible, but her acting is actually really, really good. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I read an interview that she was focusing on her music career, but I would love to see her in more acting roles. Now, I know you might be wondering, or maybe you already know, who else stole the show and had an incredible singing voice? Auli'i as Janice. She is such a powerhouse overall. I know she's been doing a lot, but I'm gonna be honest, this is the first time I've seen her since Moana, so I was really surprised by her acting. Obviously, I knew she can sing, but I really just love to hear her singing something new. Just like I mentioned with Renee, I really love the acting through the singing. Both of these women did incredibly all around. Another standout for me is Avantika's Karen. She's genuinely funny in an effortless way that is so endearing and will have you looking away from whoever's talking on screen just to see what she's up to. I love the wide-eyed look of confusion and the hilarious moments she has in this movie. I love the song she sings at the Halloween party. It was a really big surprise to me because honestly, I was expecting a much different singing voice. She didn't blow me away like the two previously mentioned singers, but she really did stand out with her performance, vocals, humor, and her energy. I also really loved Jaquel Spivey as Damien, Bebe Wood as Gretchen Wieners, and Tina Fey and Tim Meadows, Miss Norbury and Principal Duval respectively, reprising their roles 20 years later. I think all these actresses and actors did their characters justice and really brought new life to their roles. Alright, so what did I think about the movie? Is it worth watching? Let's put it all out there. As you can tell, I really enjoyed this movie. I love the energy and I love the story. I love how it's so familiar while also being refreshing and enhancing the story we already know. I will say that you can absolutely watch this movie on its own, but being familiar with the 2004 film really elevated and enriched the story and characters. I think it's really easy to enjoy this movie, especially if you already like Mean Girls and you like musicals. I will say though that I did go on Spotify and I listened to some of the songs from Mean Girls on Broadway, and the music definitely sounds different, so don't expect it to be the same. Like I said at the top of the video, I never saw the Broadway musical, so I had nothing to compare the music to when I saw this one in theaters. I did, however, see mixed reviews online from people that have seen the Broadway musical. Some people liked what the movie did and some people didn't. Earlier in the episode, I said that I like the costumes, and I do. I thought they were really cute, but once I saw this TikTok by The Legend of Korra, I see it, and I have questions. I linked the video in the description below. It's a little over 3.5 minutes, but basically in the video, she's talking about the outfits Regina George was wearing and how her clothes, for the most part, looked cheap. Regina is the trendsetter. She is that girl, but she didn't look the part. When I was watching the movie in the theater, I didn't think about that at all. Honestly, something did feel out of place with the outfits, but I didn't think about it beyond that. But when she was talking about it in the TikTok and showing screenshots of what she was talking about, it seemed so glaringly obvious. She really goes into the styles that they could have chosen for the character to reflect the current trends while being reminiscent of the 2004 film. Something else she points out is the framing, and I knew there was something going on that felt off in the movie. She explains that we basically never see Regina's legs unless she's wearing pants, and the framing goes so far as to cut out her arms and parts of her body at times. When I saw that part of the video, I was kind of speechless. Objectively speaking, the actress is gorgeous, stunning. Well, there's also the matter of what the actress is comfortable with, and as a woman with body, I can only imagine, but I think it could have been done a little more creatively and, to the Legend of Korra's point, with an elevated, more thoughtful style that really exuded the character, while keeping the actress comfortable, if that in fact was the case. There's also the chance that because she has a different body type, this was all done to hide that or make her look smaller, but based on pictures and interviews I've seen from the actress/singer, I'm leaning more toward the former. It just seems like that's her style. I got a little sidetracked. I told you I love. The same user, The Legend of Korra, also has a video talking about Janice's style and I will also link that below if you're interested and want to check it out. I honestly didn't notice any issues with these two characters' style, but after seeing these videos, I really wish we got more in the way of style and creativity to really show the characters through their clothing choices even more. I did not mean for that to be long-winded. I just really thought it was interesting, and I love learning and seeing the things that other people can pick up on. So I promised I would talk about both movies, the 2004 and 2024 films. We're gonna do this really quick. I think it's very easy to say that the 2004 film is superior and nothing can touch it. In a way, I agree. The quotable, iconic 2004 movie that I still quote to this day is cemented in a lot of our hearts, but the 2024 musical is iconic in its own way that isn't a competition. It pays homage wonderfully, and it maintains the essence of the 2004 movie while bringing its own modern flair. Additionally, the musical really adds to the story and characters through added dialogue and singing. I also think it's worth mentioning that nowadays there is a lot in the 2004 film that definitely would not be received well. Earlier I mentioned getting into negative reviews, and I'm gonna keep it short because, as usual, this is all preference and opinion. Clearly, I liked the movie, but some people complain that the movie is woke. Now, if you listen to my Totally Killer podcast exclusive episode from last year, then you know how I feel about being woke and blah, blah, blah. Be inclusive and represent what the world looks like, period. There were also a lot of comments on the use of social media, which I thought was interesting. I really like how it reflects today. Everyone and most people are on TikTok, and it's no surprise that teens nowadays would be using TikTok like they did in the movie. People complained that there is so much singing. They said it was disruptive and stopped the story. I think if I didn't expect the musical to be a musical, I might agree. It's heavy on the music, heavy on the singing, there are dance numbers, and the story might stop, but we're still getting character depth and story details in these moments that are still moving forward. Additionally, some of these moments were just funny when they started singing or just stopped and essentially came back to the real world. If you're looking for a personal negative I would give about this movie, I think one a lot of people can probably agree on: product placement. It was weird and obvious, and I wish they were more subtle if they were gonna do it, because it stuck out like a sore thumb. And don't get me started on that weird elf ad that ran before the movie. Also, I really thought Anne-Marie Rice as Katie Heron was fantastic. I especially love her acting when she's the fish out of water innocent character. I really just wasn't a fan of her singing throughout. She wasn't horrible, but when you're listening to Auli'i and Renee in the same movie, her singing didn't stand out as much as I was hoping it would. Have you seen Mean Girls yet? If you saw the movie, what did you think about it, slay or not? I really enjoyed this movie. I really loved the characters and the added layers this interpretation gives them. I really loved the singing for the most part, as well as the dance sequences. My favorite moments were everything that happened at the Halloween party and Auli'i's I'd Rather Be Me. I liked the song Apex Predator, but the dance choreography got a little weird for a little too long in my opinion. That one moment aside, this movie really held my attention. It was high energy with surprisingly great acting and amazing singing. I think if you're not comparing the three, this movie is easy to love if you're a fan of the 2004 movie or the Broadway show. All right, movie fans, that brings us to the end of the episode. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you very much. Check out the description below for a link to the podcast if you're watching on YouTube. Also, please consider leaving this episode a thumbs up. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me and for catching today's episode. You can listen to new episodes every Friday. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and follow me on Instagram so you don't miss the next movie we're going to be talking about. The next movie that I'm going to be watching is Argylle. There's so much to be excited for in this movie. Dua Lipa, the music, the stylish action, John Cena. I love John Cena. He's supposed to be in the movie, but honestly, you guys, I didn't see him anywhere in the trailer. Anyway, I'm also looking forward to the cat definitely being the real Agent Argylle. I'm still standing by this one. I want to let you guys know that there is a really high chance that this episode will have to be pushed out because I have to be an adult for the first week of February. Please check out my Instagram and or the community tab on YouTube for updates on this episode. Moving on to the podcast exclusive episodes, because I don't want you to think I forgot about them. we've got Rebel Moon and Leave the World Behind. I might take a week break, probably rewatch these, and then talk about them on the podcast. Keep an eye on my Instagram and or the community tab on YouTube for updates on when you can listen to those episodes on the pod. So I hope you'll join me on YouTube and the podcast, especially for those exclusive episodes. I would love to hear from you guys, so please let me know your thoughts on today's episode or just your thoughts on the movie we talked about today in the comments section on YouTube or the Q&A and poll on Spotify. I want to know what you think, so let me know wherever you're listening or watching, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram at a.rocket.review, and I'll talk to you next week. But until the next episode, spread positivity, be safe, take care of yourself. You can sit with us. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.